Good morning, and welcome to Redeemer Lutheran Church. I'm Pastor Gary Lodeholt. I never tire of telling the story of the eureka moment I had with regard to the green altar paraments we use here at Redeemer. Maybe it's so important to me because I had struggled so strongly with it, and when the eureka moment happened, it was clear that the answer was right. Our green parament is the one we use for almost half of the church here. From Advent through Pentecost, about half of the year, we focus on the earthly life of Jesus. We move from his birth and to his death, and then to Easter, followed by the Ascension. But after Pentecost Sunday, it is the time of the church. The scriptures we use focus on our life in Christ, Christ's teachings, and what Christ means for us. The paraments are green to reflect our growth in faith. When I arrived at Redeemer, I was stunned to see the green parament, which has 5 loaves and 3 fish. At first I thought it was a nice depiction of the miracle of Jesus called the multiplication of the loaves and fishes, or the feeding of the 5,000. Then I thought, wait, that story has 5 loaves and 2 fish. Where did the 3rd fish on the parament come from? I asked everyone I could think of, from seminary professors to liturgical arts people who make paraments, and no one had a clue. Then, after years of leading worship behind a parament I didn't understand, it suddenly dawned on me. The parament wasn't about the miracle of the feeding. It was about the leftovers. The 3rd fish represents the leftovers that they collected in baskets. So the parament wasn't about the miracle. It was about the overabundance of God's grace and blessing for us. This week in our time together, each day we are looking at a few stories from the Gospels where fish are somehow involved. Today we will consider the one you likely thought of first, the feeding of the 5,000. You are probably very familiar with this story, how the crowds had sought out Jesus, how they were so busy filling their hunger for God through him that no one gave any thought about their hunger for food too. Finally, Jesus and his disciples have a discussion about it. It's late in the day, and the area is remote. There weren't stores to get food at that point, and no one had enough money to provide food for them anyway. What could they do? That's when Andrew comes forward and tells them that he has a little boy there with a sack lunch of 5 fist-sized barley loaves and 2 sardine-sized fish. Then he said, "But what are they among so many?" Still, we have to wonder about Andrew bringing the boy and his lunch forward. It is a pitiful amount. Logic would say there's no need even to mention it. But is it possible that Andrew was operating out of faith and not logic? Did he have some small bit of hope and faith that Jesus might be able to do something? Jesus had the people sit down, and then in words and actions incredibly reminiscent of the Last Supper and the meal of Holy Communion, he took the bread, blessed it, broke it, and gave it to the people. Like Holy Communion, Jesus offered a meal of grace. In my mind, I still picture how I saw this scene played out in a movie once. Jesus put a small piece of bread in a large basket, and the disciple carried the basket out among the people and gave out the small piece. When the next person approached, the disciple looked at him and said, "I'm sorry, that's all I have." And the other person said, "What are you talking about?" and reached into the full basket to get bread and fish. I don't know if that's how it really happened or not, but I like the sudden surprise involved. So often we are caught by surprise when we find ourselves in the midst of a miracle that God is working. Even more, it is surprising, so surprising, even stunning, when we find ourselves part of God's work. These were ordinary fish and ordinary loaves, but they were suddenly part of an extraordinary action of God. They were suddenly involved in a miracle. They were unexpectedly the vehicle through which God provided abundant grace. And sometimes so are we. I hope you look for and search for those times when God is working through ordinary old you. It will catch you by surprise, and you'll be amazed at the abundance of God's grace. Thanks for watching, and remember to let this day belong to God.